Hey y'all, it's Megan. Welcome back to the channel. Glad y'all are here today. Come spend a little time with me today. Andy and the kids are out and about for the day. It's gonna be a busy day, but I'm gonna try to get most of the outside work done before it gets hot. The heat has returned, which of course it's going to. It's August, so it's supposed to be hot. But the first thing I gotta do this morning is go tie up our few little tomato plants that are down at the creek. And I really wanna show y'all what that looks like down there because it has grown like crazy. I'm also gonna go ahead, I'm gonna make my Chow Chow this morning. That way we can go ahead and get that canned tonight because a lot of times it's a 2-day process. I'll explain more about that later. I'm also gonna make some tomato juice. Very, very simple if you've never made any. So y'all come on with me. Come on, Tiger, let's go ride. Come on, let's go ride. Went ahead and put the cows and the horses back here on the back pasture. We've had them blocked off from it since it started raining, and it's come out pretty good. We're gonna let them enjoy it for a couple of days. Look at this creek garden, y'all. It is growing. I mean, it is growing. We had a little issue with our sweet corn. Not sure what's going on with that. Andy ended up having to spray it for insects, which is not something we normally have to do. Here's the tomatoes I gotta tie up. And the popcorn. We're just letting it do its thing. If you're growing fresh popcorn, you do, let it dry like field corn. You let that get pretty dead. Where we had such issues with the Japanese beetles, as soon as it starts to be drying up, we're probably gonna go ahead and pick it so it don't get any moisture down in that ear, because it don't really turn upside down like the field corn up the road does. But, all right, let me get these tomatoes tied up. Now we're doing the Florida weave on these tomatoes too. And it works like a charm if your tomatoes live, unlike the ones at the house wanting to die. And if you'd like a more detailed explanation on the Florida weave, I have a video back early spring. I'll link it to this one to show you exactly how to do that if you've never done that method for tying up tomatoes. We've done it for several years and it works good for us anyway. It's the best way I've found to tie up tomatoes. You just have to stay on top of it. There we go. That looks better. Well, there's one task done. Let's get back to the house. Come on, Tiger. Let's go. Yeah, that's right. Stay back there in your muddy seat, ma'am. We're back up here at the house, and I'm gonna go ahead and pick my stuff for my Chow Chow. Now, the Chow Chow that I make is like a sweet chilled Chow Chow with a little bit of heat. And if you've tried it before, I hope you've loved the recipe. I worked on it for several years till I finally got it to taste like I wanted it to. Now my Chow Chow is made with green tomatoes. I think I actually may throw a couple of red ones in there today too, just because I have so many. But I need 5 decent sized green tomatoes. So I'm gonna go out here to the big tomatoes. Ew, them's all turned red. I just picked these yesterday. All right, green tomatoes. There's a big one. If they're not big, you just pick you a few more. I think we need 4 cups of green tomatoes, so that's what we're trying to equal out to. There's a big one. Let me get that one. All right, that should be enough. Since I'm especially going to be adding a couple of red ones in there too, that should be plenty. One thing I am concerned about with my Chow Chow this year is I'm scared that my cabbage heads are froze. The ones you saw me put up back in early summer. A lot of years it'll fall where my cabbage is finishing up, so I still have cabbage out in the garden, getting a few peppers out of the garden, and I've got green tomatoes coming on. And usually it'll fall all about the same time. Well, this year it wasn't like that. The tomatoes were super slow. The peppers have been exceptionally slow. I mean, I picked that cabbage a long time ago. So if it's froze, I'm still going to use it. Just because this is not making like slaw or something, I'm still going to use it and hope it turns out good and for the best. All right, now we got to head out to the peppers. Look at Maggie's flower garden. It's enjoyed the rain. It really has. Those zinnias, man, they're huge. They're tall. Look at this one. Look how pretty that one is. I just love it. It's too pretty to pick, so I just leave it. Now with my Chow Chow, usually I like to have several green bell peppers to put in it. This year, that's probably not going to be the case, and it has happened to me in years past. I have a lot of banana peppers and just like a couple of bell peppers. So we're going to substitute bell peppers for banana peppers. Like I said, done it before, still turns out great. So it's a very, Chow Chow is like a really versatile recipe. It's kind of one of those things that I swear I think it was made back in the day. You just used whatever you had and threw it together. And that's kind of the way I do it too. I have that basic recipe that is more of a recommendation, and I get as close to that as I can and just wing it. So I'm not gonna pick that little guy yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and pick this one. We'll use him. Oh, well, I guess I am gonna pick this one. He just decided he wasn't gonna live on there anymore, so. I need like 10 or 11 or 12 peppers. Let me just look, make sure I don't see any more. Our bell peppers did great last year. This year, not so much. I see some Mad Hatters up in here. Let's throw some of those in there. Why not? Here's one. See some more on the backside back there. Banana peppers don't go quite as far as bell peppers, so I took a few extra. Now, one thing with this recipe, like I said, this is like a sweet chow chow with just a little bit of heat. If you want to like replace part of these sweet peppers with more hot peppers, that's totally fine to make it a hotter chow chow. I'm thinking I may do like 4 jalapenos and maybe 2 habaneros in this one. The habaneros will give it a little more heat than it normally has. So I'm gonna try that this year. We hadn't grown habaneros in a few years, so I haven't put any in it. Look. Oh, there's one's cracking. Let me take him. It is a pepper jungle. May need to make some cowboy candy too, because I got a lot of jalapenos up in there. I don't know if I'll get to that today. We'll just see. All right, let me give me a few habaneros. I think I'm just gonna do, I may do 3, because it'll make, I mean, this will make a big batch of chow chow. But I don't want it so hot I can't stand to eat it. But I do like hot stuff, so we'll see. Now I need some onions. I'm gonna use my weird onions that we had from back in early spring that the fly got in and made them all crazy. So I haven't put those in the house because I was worried that they would rot. So I've actually kept them down here and just let them dry in this greenhouse. And they've been doing fine. I just didn't want the smell of rotten onions in my house. So I've got my good onions in there that you saw us get out of the raised beds a while back. But for my chow chow, I think I can use these as long as they're all right. We're trying to equal 4 cups of onions as well. Look at there. Yeah, that one's okay. Good. Let's put some red onion in there. I think that would make it pretty. See how weird these got? See that? That's why I didn't want to keep them in the house. Actually, that one's not rotten. It's fine. I was just scared they would rot. Yeah, that one's real weird too, but it's all right for now. Let's see, let me get one more. If I had big onions, it wouldn't take this many, but these aren't big, so. Yeah, that one's all right. Well, that makes me happy because I did not know how these would keep because they got all crazy like that. But they're not rotten. Maybe it's helped in being in this hot, dry environment. Okay. I'm gonna do one more. I don't want to have to come back down here. Okay. Perfect. There we go. All right, we're ready to make our chow chow. So, just as I figured, my cabbage is froze. And let me tell you why. If you may not know, I've got an old refrigerator out in the building. I mean, like a 70s or 80s model refrigerator that used to be in the house. And when it gets really hot outside, it tends to freeze stuff. And I mean like freeze it solid. And I've even got the temperature cut up on it a little bit, but it still does it. I notice it, like I said, when it gets hot outside, I guess it's working extra hard because it's out in that building. But I looked it up, and it said that frozen cabbage just may not have the texture. It'll be a mushier texture. And I'm thinking where this is like a pickled recipe, that will be all right. So we're going to use it. We're going to use it. It's going to be fine. It's all fine. So you're going to need you a glass pan or two because we're going to have to let this set till tonight. But I'm going to go ahead and get it chopped up. I used to make this without my food processor. And the food processor is such a lifesaver. It just really is. But you're going to need your 1 medium cabbage head. Preferably fresh, not frozen. Alright, so once you got it chopped up pretty good, I don't like big chunks in my chow chow. It's just me. You can do whatever how you want. But I get it chopped up pretty fine. Actually, I'm going to do that a little bit more because it ain't as fine as I want it. We're gonna dump this into our pan. And we're gonna get it all done that way. Now we need 4 cups of onions. So I grabbed some extras. We'll just see if we need them all. And if I have a few extra onions, I mean, it'll be fine. Totally fine. I forgot to also tell you, in your supplies, make sure you got you a chicken bucket. So my granny's sister, her name was Patsy, she used to always make the best Chow Chow. She passed away when I was probably 12, 13, 14 years old, something like that. But we would always go to her house on Sundays after church and go up there and eat lunch. And boy, she cooked the best food. Oh, I always look forward to going to Patsy's to eat. And she made the best Chow Chow that you have ever eaten in your life. People have asked her back when she was living, how do you make that Chow Chow? Because it was always so good. And she'd say, I don't know. I have no idea. I just make it. There was never a recipe for it. And so that was kind of my goal. That was my mama's aunt. And so mom and daddy are always my taste testers for my Chow Chow. And I say, is it close to Patsy's? Is it close to Patsy's? And the last few years using this particular recipe, per them, they said it's the closest they've ever tasted since she passed to her Chow Chow. And that makes me happier than y'all realize. It really does. Ooh, them red onions smell strong. So it's going to be the same way with my onions. I don't want big chunks of onions in there. That's personal preference. You know, you can leave them as big as you want. But I like mine cut up pretty fine. And same thing. We're going to pour this. And it's a little over 4 cups. Just a little. It'll be fine. I had a feeling it would take that many. Now we'll go ahead and chop our green washed tomato. We need 4 cups of green tomatoes. Like I said, I'm also going to add in a couple red ones too. But I don't peel them. I just do peeling and all. And if you want to peel them, it'll still work just fine. And just the same way, we're going to dump those on our mixture. Let's dump our few red tomatoes in there. And we're going to do the same thing. Same thing with our peppers. I'll wait and cut the hot ones up last. I always do them last. But we'll go ahead. Let's get this mixed up so far. Boy, them onions are strong. Burning my eyes. Why y'all trying to get stuck up there? What you doing? right, let's get our hot peppers cut up. Please wear gloves when you're cutting up your hot peppers. I made the mistake years ago. I was like, oh, you know, I ain't gonna wear gloves. That's ridiculous. But it is not ridiculous, especially for somebody that wears contacts. You think you've got it all off your hands till you touch your eye. And then you realize, nope, sure ain't. So just wear you some gloves. Save yourself some pain and heartache. All right, let's get all this combined. I actually didn't need my second pan today. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Worked out good today. Like I said, the measurements are more of a recommendation than an absolute have to, especially on this part of it. Now we're gonna, it's pretty mixed up. So we're just going to level it out here. We're going to sprinkle a half a cup of salt, cannon salt or plain salt, either one, over the top. Just make sure I get salt on most of it here. So now we're just going to cover this and set it in the refrigerator for 8 to 12 hours. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll make it like late in the evening, let it set overnight, and then can it the next day. But today, I'm just going to do it all in the same day, and we will can this later this evening. Now, the next thing we're going to make is tomato juice. I've already made quite a bit, just hadn't been able to catch it on video. So I'm not going to be making a ton today, but I wanted to show y'all just how simple it is to make your own tomato juice, because it's very simple, and homemade tomato juice is delicious. Like, I can drink it straight out of the jar just like somebody would V8 or something. Like, it is great. So it doesn't matter what kind of tomatoes you've got. It don't matter if it's regular old round tomatoes, if it's the paste tomatoes. You can make tomato juice out of anything. Now, I don't peel them. I know you're going to say, but Megan, you said when you was making tomato soup the other day, you peeled them because they stick to the bottom. Yes, you're right. You're right about that. But this does not cook as long as that tomato soup does with the whole tomatoes. So I don't worry about peeling them or nothing like that, because we're going to cook this just until our tomatoes get mushy. Now, I'll just cut my tomatoes in half, core them and cut them in half, straight in the big pot. And we're going to do that for all of these. Just make sure you got your chicken bucket handy. Your little chickens will enjoy the leftovers from this. See, I'm going to use some of these San Marzanos that I got too. So I've got all them cut up and cored. What we're going to do now, before we cut our heat on, is we're just going to kind of go through, like, I got this metal spoon here, and I'm just going to kind of mash a little bit. And what that's going to do is put us just a little bit of moisture on the bottom of this pot, so they don't try to burn and stick, like, as soon as you cut the heat on, where there's no, like, water or anything in here. So I just go through and give them a good mash. And then I'll try to look on the bottom to see if I got some juice down there. We're getting some. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put our heat on. I'm going to put mine on low, but this gas stove gets like extra hot. Low to low, medium, medium low, or whatever is what I would start off with. Keep a close eye on them at first. Make sure they're not sticking to the bottom. We'll let those cook down till they get just plumb sloppy. So I'll show you what it looks like in a few minutes once it starts, the tomatoes start releasing their juice. Because when we get done, these will be like covered in juice and almost non-existent. This is after about 15 minutes. You can see our juice is already starting to make under there. So we're just going to let these continue to cook, stirring them every once in a while. Now this is after about an hour. So we're about ready to strain this. See how sloppy the tomatoes are getting? See what I mean there? Yep, we're about ready to strain this for our juice. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my heat off of my tomatoes. We're going to use our food meal that you see me use for a lot of different things. And we're just going to start dipping our tomatoes and tomato juice into that right there. Just like y'all saw me do the tomato soup the other day. We're just going to put us a little bit in there. And we're just going to give this a spin. Then into the chicken bucket with our scraps. And you just do that till you get all your tomatoes from this pot to this one. As you can see, I got this pot, I don't know, 3/4 of the way full of just plain old tomato juice. So we're just gonna put that back on our eye here. And we want this to come up to a good rolling boil. I want this to be good and hot because we're gonna be canning this using the open kettle method, which I will go ahead and say is not an approved method. Megan ain't telling you to do it, just how I do it. I know y'all probably getting tired of hearing me say that. I was watching actually one of Celebrating Appalachia's videos, this morning. I was actually watching it this morning while I was drinking my coffee. And, you know, she made a good point in her video. And she said, you know, I feel comfortable doing it this way for me and my family in my kitchen. And that's all totally up to you if you feel comfortable doing the same. And if you don't, that's totally fine too. This is just a older way of canning that's not necessarily approved. I thought that was real good when she said that. And I was like, you hit the nail on the head. That's right. So anyways, let's bring this up to a boil and get that good and hot. We'll get it in our jars. One thing I have started doing, y'all, is going ahead and putting my salt in my tomato juice mixture before I put it in the jars, because I was catching myself forgetting to put the salt in the jars. I get in a hurry and go ahead and put it in there and put the lid on and everything, and, well, just sometimes forget. Now, ain't that... I don't know if any of y'all ever forget, but Megan does sometimes. So I've got to where here lately, I just go ahead and put it in at this point. So I'm guessing I'm going to get probably around 4 quarts of tomato juice. So I'm going to do 4 teaspoons of salt. I like a little extra salt in my tomato juice, so I don't get too, I'll probably add 1 more. Just a little extra. Ain't going to hurt nothing. That way my salt is already in it and I don't have to worry about forgetting it. Now I've let our tomato juice get good and hot. And now I want y'all to look here. Bring you a little closer. See that foam there on top? We're just going to scrape that off as best we can there. A metal spoon seems to work the best. Now, the old folks, you know, they call that scraping the poison off. So I'm taking it as we're scraping off some of the impurities from the tomatoes that float to the top. So the way I was taught is always just to scrape that off best you can. If you leave a little bit, it's okay. Now we're ready to get this in our jars. I got my lids over here boiling, and so we want this to be good and hot when it goes in the jar. So I'm just going to pour it straight in there. Now when you're doing open kettle, you really want to crank down on that lid. And then I always flip them upside down for a few hours till they cool. I've had lots of questions asked how long to leave them upside down. I do it till they cool. So I only had 3 quarts and I don't know, not even half a pint. So that's pretty good. And like I said, I'm not concerned because you've seen how much salt I put in there. I am not concerned with that at all because I like my tomato juice salty anyway. So I just try to do a rough guesstimate of how much tomato juice I'm going to have. And of course come up short today. But that's how simple tomato juice is. It does take quite a few tomatoes to make tomato juice, but it's something excellent to make if you've got an abundance of tomatoes and you don't know what to do with them and you done made all the things. Make you some tomato juice. Very versatile. And it makes the best vegetable soup. All right, y'all. This day is winding down. So let's get our Chow Chow finished up and canned. And it'll be ready to eat. Now, so what we're going to do now is make our brine. So we're going to need 4 cups of white vinegar. Six cups of sugar. Now, this is just the way that we like it, sweet like that. Feel free to cut down on the sugar. Like I said earlier today, this is a very versatile recipe. So, you know, if you don't want the sugar in it, that is A-okay. But I like that little bit of sweet in there, so I'm going to put it in there. 6 cups. Two cups of water. We're going to give this a stir. Go ahead and cut my heat on here. And we're going to add in our vegetables. Now, we're not washing these or anything. You can if you want to. I don't. I'll leave that salt on there. Oh yeah, that's gonna be so good. I love Chow Chow. Now I cut my heat up to about medium. I'm gonna let this come to a good boil for about 5 minutes and then we'll get it in our jars. Well, we've been in a good boil for about 5 minutes. Don't stand over that steam, it'll take your breath. So let's get this in our jars. So we're gonna do this just like we did the tomato juice this morning. This is hot. Gonna put a hot lid on it, and we're gonna do the open kettle method. You can water bath this if you want to for 8 to 10 minutes. Ever how you want to do it. Chow Chow is so pretty. I think that's what I like about making it the most. Not only does it taste good, it is so pretty. And you just want to make sure all your solids are covered with liquid here. Now, of course, using those red tomatoes and those purple onions really helped out with my color here. Some years I make it, and it's a nice, plain old light green color. Ooh, I about got carried away with that one. That was too much. Too much. All right, y'all, there is the finished product. So this is what I had left. I probably could have got one more pint of solids. You can see this only half full, and I got some liquid down here. I'm thinking I'll eat on that for a little bit, and then I may try making some pickled eggs with that brine, because I bet that would be really good. So that's kind of my thought. That's why I put it in that quart jar that way. But this is some of the prettiest I've made in a while. Well, guys, that about wraps it up for today's video. It sure has been a busy, busy day. But I hope you enjoyed both the recipes. Try some tomato juice. Super easy, and it is so good. That little piece of a pint that I had this morning, I've already drank it. It is delicious. And if you've never had Chow Chow, I enjoy eating Chow Chow on any kind of beans. I like to put it on any kind of beans. It's good on hot dogs. Actually makes really good chicken salad, tuna salad. It's good to put you a spoonful in there. It's just really good stuff, to the point that, I mean, I could just about eat it straight out the jar. But anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. Till we see y'all in the next one. Y'all have a good one.